All right, guys, so we got a couple candidates in the room who are going to speak tonight. We got one from CD7. Jim Hemenway is running. Jim has a background and a bunch of college degrees in analytics. He worked for Wells Fargo Bank. He's running for office, and I heard him speak the other night. Now, this is for our CD7, and as far as I know, Jim, you're the only candidate as a Republican running in this district. Is that right at this time?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I anticipate that'll change because I don't know why we don't have 400 people like we did last time, but right now, Jim's the only one running. And so, Jim, if you'd like to come up here, Jim's got children. He lives in Colorado, from Colorado, and he's chosen to throw his hat in the ring and stand up for politics on the Republican side, and we're glad to have him on board. Jim?
Thanks, Rich. So good evening, Mountain Republicans. Great to be here. Thanks for Rich to set me up here. I live in Iowa. I'm running for CD7 as what I call an America First moderate. So let's let people, a lot of people, that word might get some hackles up around here, so I want to deal with it. Republicans have lost 7 out of the last 8 popular votes for the presidency. And I know the president's not elected by the popular vote, but it indicates we're not a majority party. In CD7, we've lost 9 in a row now. Going back to when Ed Perlmutter first ran in 2006. You know, and if we run a typical R in this district, what's going to happen? We're going to lose. We're going to lose. And the margin's not even that close. You know what the last 9 elections were? 57-40. Not close. In electoral terms, that's a blowout. So I want to see a show of hands. So given those facts, do you guys agree that we need to make some changes if we want to win in this district? Okay, well, we'll get to that. But raise your hand if you think we need to make some changes from a standard Republican. So and look around, see all those hands going up. Okay, thank you. How do we do that? We'll get to that. So I'll give you the red meat first, though. I think the biggest issue in 2024, whether you're running in Manhattan or San Francisco or anywhere in between, is immigration. Have you seen these kinds of images? Okay, I've seen them a lot. When I see, you know, if you're not talking about this, you're committing political malpractice, is my opinion. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about it. But it's a big issue, and it's not just the last couple of years. We're at a 15% foreign-born population in the U.S. That's a record high. It happened in October, faster than the predictions were. That's over 50 million people, rising. To me, there are some clear problems with that. First of all, it pushes the electorate to the left. Many of you might know that, some may not, but it does. You know, immigrants vote typically much more Democratic than native-born people do. When I see 8 million people coming over the border in 3 years, I think, hey, it's kind of not my country anymore. It's not my kid's country, it's not your kid's country, it's not your country. It belongs to the world. You know, I'm kind of offended by that. You know, who are these people, you know, carrying the flag of a foreign country coming here? It's disrespectful. We got to get comfortable deporting people. I mean, I hope, you know, Trump's going to get the nomination. I hope he wins. And in less than a year, he can start reversing some of this. But we got to start deporting lots of people, is the bottom line. And I also think, and just, you know, as an aside, I also think we need to reduce incoming legal numbers because it's not just illegals. I mean, if you look in Europe, what's happening in Europe, and if you look at these people with Palestinian flags shutting down airports, that never would have happened 30 years ago, right? Why is it happening now? Because demographic change. So enough of that. I think you guys will agree with me on that. Spending and taxes. Don't need to probably educate you. Hey, the national debt's $34 trillion, and it's rising by $2 trillion a year. And when unemployment's less than 4%, which is pretty good, right? That's a very good economy. If you want a job, you can find a job now. But however, to get that down, Republicans have been doing this strategy called starve the beast for 30 years now. And I remember when I was younger, the theory was first devised and it hasn't worked. Basically, they say, well, if we cut taxes, people will get alarmed by the deficit. Therefore, then Dems will agree, everyone will agree to cut spending and we'll get lower spending. It hasn't worked. And Dems will not agree to anything unless some taxes are increased. So we'll have to make some kind of grand bargain, if you ask me. And I'm okay with that. Given we allocate 70% comes from spending cuts, 30% comes from tax increases, whatever, We do the math and we fill in the blanks and it works. All spending categories to me are on the table in terms of what gets cut. We can't exempt stuff. It's just too big of a task. Foreign policy. There's not a lot. Rich, how much time do I have? Okay. There's not a whole lot to say, but I will say this. You guys may have noticed this. Have you noticed it seems like we have a lot of enemies in the world? Doesn't it seem that way? And I think, hey, who are these people who are managing our foreign policy? It seems like they're doing a bad job. That's just my take on it. And like if you're a young person, you see these stories about military recruiting shortfalls. If you're a young person, would you want to join the U.S. military and have a drag queen story hour on a Navy ship and defend Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel? Look, I like those countries, nothing wrong with them, but an American military should protect the United States. So is that good red meat? Okay. Okay, now we'll get into the one thing. I don't have that much time, so I'll give you the one thing that I think is like the biggest thing that I think we do need to change. 2020, this is Wall Street Journal a couple days ago. Yeah, Wednesday last week. 2023 hottest year ever. Everybody says it. It was happening this year, well, last year. NASA says it, NOAA says it. This data is from the European scientific group called Copernicus. Everybody knows it. Dillon Reservoir is warmed by 5 degrees in the last 40 years. I think we're locked out of support at the higher levels, like elite levels in government and society, because of this issue. And what happens is people who want to solve it, because we haven't agreed as a bipartisan big deal to solve it, we get piecemeal efforts. We get electric vehicle mandates, we get renewable power mandates. There's a way to solve it that's more market friendly, but it's a refundable carbon tax. It's on the back. I've got some cards here I'll hand out. I think because that's like a comprehensive free market solution, and it's actually proposed by George Shultz and James Baker. You might remember them from the 80s and 90s. So it's a Republican proposal, but it deals with this problem. I think we got to do it. Nuclear benefits, because nuclear is good. There's no carbon, but it's got a stigma. And we got to overcome the stigma. And you overcome the stigma by giving people a financial incentive to do it. And this would do that. So, I say on my website, this district, 5740, and I say Dems aren't wrong about everything. And I believe that. But I also think that it's a good conciliatory effort to try to bring over people who are in the middle, who might identify with Democrats, but the couple of issues that might block them from voting for a typical Republican. I want to solve that. So that's why I say it. Hey, we got to get 10% of their voters or more in order to win. So how are we going to do it? If we say, no, we're not doing that, we're not doing that, we're not doing that, okay, but you're just going to lose then. And I don't want to lose. I'm not here for my health. I'm not here because I want another job or I need a stepping stone to a cable news career or something. I'm doing this because we have problems. And honestly, the current incumbent crew of people have done a bad job of solving them. Maybe I'll run into a brick wall too, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So I need your support, electorally, but also financially, because these campaigns do cost money. I'm contributing my own money, but need help. Well, there's a nice hot button issue. The Dobbs. Okay, look, people who are pro-life, which I am too, we got our prayers answered with the Dobbs decision. Repeal Roe versus Wade. That's great, but now it's back to the states, which we always asked for it to be. And now it's not a matter for Congress anymore, right? It's a matter for Colorado State Legislature. It's a matter for Wyoming. It's a matter for Texas. It's a matter for Minnesota. It's not part of my purview anymore if I was elected to this. So that's my answer.
Would you be in favor of investigating the non-government organizations that are facilitating this huge mass migration up through Central America? Because they're not moving by themselves.
Yes, no, I've heard those kind of stories, and I do agree with you that it's the Catholic Charities involved in it, and George Soros. I've heard all those stories, and I think that there's some truth to them, probably. So yes, but we have to solve it. Ultimately, what goes on outside our borders is tough. We can put pressure on Mexico and Central America to do this. We have the power internally to solve it ourselves, though, and we have to. That's the way it's going to get solved, right?
So on the unemployment numbers, you're mistaken.
Well, it's
Getting-
3.7.
It doesn't matter. You get it from the newspaper, it's wrong. You have to look at the E3, E4, E5. People who are unemployed, not looking for work, are not counted as unemployed individuals in this country.
That's right. No, I understand that. But
So
if-
that number is much higher.
well, it depends. If a person's not looking for work, there's what's called a U6 unemployment. People have been unemployed for longer than 6 months or something. But if you're not looking, I mean, you have to.
Then incentivize them. You don't have to raise taxes. Just get them back to work.
How are you going to do that?
That's not my job.
That's not my
why
job
we're-
either.
At some point, it is government's job.
Well, all these people who are
You regulate people out of the workforce, you're going to get what we have.
Well, look, the unemployment rate's the unemployment rate. If you disagree with how it's calculated, that's fine. But it's calculated the way it's calculated, and it always has been. It's been constant. It's been consistent.
It actually hasn't been constant. It changed
Okay.
my lifetime.
Okay. Well, I can't solve everything. I mean, if there are people who are so discouraged, I mean, with unemployment at 3.7, people would be coming into the workforce because low end job wages are going up. So the people who are not working now are probably, well, I don't want to speculate, but a lot of them are probably, homeless people with drug problems, people who just don't want to work.
Well, they are now.
But
I mean, I'm not coming down on you. I'm just saying, it's like, just be honest with us, because this is what it really is. This is what we're dealing with. I mean, we have people living in tents all over the place, and they're not necessarily immigrants.
No, I get it. I get it. But a lot of those people are there because of drugs and other kinds of problems in their own lives, which are hard. I mean, it's hard to solve everything all at once.
Mm-hmm.
One more question over here. Hang on.
You've got a lot of things. This is a complex issue. You got a lot of parts to this. The biggest factor are people are doing things like taking early retirement, finding out that they're making less money for the same job, and things like that. So it's a complicated issue. But yeah, all the socialism and all that kind of stuff is a big contributing factor, and all that kind of stuff. So socialism is probably the real key to that issue there. And they always play games on those statistic numbers where they change definitions and things like that. So actually, I guess maybe a better question would be, how are you on the social issues? And
Well, like we heard abortion. I mean, what exactly do you mean? Well, I'm against it. I mean, but we have a social safety net, right? We have unemployment insurance. We have Social Security. We have Medicare and Medicaid, and those programs are not going away. Barry Goldwater aside, they're not going away. So we have to manage them, and they're expensive. We have to find ways to manage them down.
Okay, go ahead. I'll give one more.
I was unclear when you held up the piece of paper. Were you referring to the environment? Because I didn't
Yeah.
catch exactly what you were. Okay, and so
Yeah.
you said we have to stand up for the fact that
Well,
get in on that, take the Democratic side on that,
Well-
because we have two science teachers here that know a lot about that issue, and the world has ever been thus. Have you been up on the hogback? We have lots of fern specimens. This globe has warmed and this globe has cooled. People have nothing to do with it. It's totally the planet that's in charge of that. So
We'll have to agree to disagree. The facts are the facts. CO2 concentrations have gone way up in the last 150 years. And that
it has been doing that over the
No.
been doing that over the millions of years. We have dinosaur bones here. Lots
no,
of dinosaur bones. This has always happened on this planet, and
But-
what controls the climate is where we are around the sun, what our orbit is, and exactly how close we are to the sun and sun flares. And when that big earthquake hit Japan, it kicked the axis of the Earth itself. That's what causes climate change, not people, not a damn car, and not a cow fart.
Ma'am, with all due respect, if I was to go out and say that in District 7, I'll lose. I don't even believe it. We'll have to agree to disagree. But honestly, we'll lose. You've got 10,000 scientists around the world at every scientific body in every country who say this is real. It's a factor. What you're saying is not wrong. That those things. Hold. Okay.
It is warming, but it's not because of man.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Now listen, I've read so much about the ill effects of drinking and smoking and illicit sex that I've quit reading.
Should I just walk around and hand these out? Or?
You can set them back there. Okay, thank you, Jim. Listen, round of applause for Jim running for City 7.